136 million are stuck in extreme poverty. $63 trillion are spent on products by consumers every year. Now, Daniel Flynn, who's the co-founder of Thankyou, an Australian-based business and organization, is advocating that consumerism can end extreme poverty. They've raised $17 million for their impact partners, and they have directly affected 856,000 people. Now, Daniel joins me in this conversation. Daniel, thank you very much. Talk to me about your organization, Thankyou, and what is that vision that you have for the world?
Pre the pandemic, that is the number, 736 million people. And there are estimates now, Bill and Melinda Gates just released a report that's growing now by 37 million. And there are estimates that will grow well over 100 million people going back into extreme poverty. And I think what the world we see at Thankyou is an interesting one, because pre the pandemic, that's how many people lived in extreme poverty. But also collectively as consumers, we spent $63 trillion on consumer product. Now, Thankyou is a social enterprise. We sell consumer product. This is one of our 50 products right here. It's our hand sanitizer. But we sell consumer products that exist all for the end of extreme poverty. And so really we see the world's two extremes, poverty, consumerism, and kind of a bridge. And this whole idea around, imagine if we, the consumer, could combine the little we each have when we make those purchasing decisions, but together could we help end an injustice, an inequality gap so big that it shouldn't exist? Could we end it? And that's kind of Thankyou's whole premise. And, during the pandemic, we've seen this play out in epic proportions. So while, more people are going into extreme poverty and charities are in a tailspin because people have stopped donating, Thankyou, we've sold more hand sanitizer and hand wash than we ever had in our history. And we've been operating for 12 years in Australia. We'd raised $7 million for our impact partners. And then during the space of a few months during the pandemic, we raised a further $10 million. It's just incredible. That's money for our impact partners, working in 33 countries around the world. And to your question, what's our world vision? I mean, this is a model that is working at a time where the world's falling apart. And it's only in Australia and New Zealand, and we've just started dreaming and asking the question, what if it could exist all around the world?
It's such an interesting thing for me when you talk about inequality, because South Africa, the country where I'm conducting this interview from, is no stranger to the discussion of inequality. In actual fact, we've done poorly at it in terms of the rankings. We also know that the top 1% could deal with extreme poverty if they wanted to. But you're actually advocating that consumers could deal with extreme poverty.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to claim that Thankyou is the only answer. It is one of many. But I think often as the people, the consumer, the everyday citizen, we underestimate the power we have. So we'll look at the top 1% and we'll say, well, that they've got the power, and proportionately they do have a lot of power. But we have to remember that collectively we are the ones that buy the products. We are the ones that make the decisions, and they all add up to these sort of multi-billion and trillion-dollar, categories or entities. And Thankyou is a real flip of the system. As founders, myself and my who's my wife, we started Thankyou when we were dating. We're now married. We have, a 5-year-old boy and a baby on the way. But we both saw the way the world was and just imagined what if it looked different. The one big difference with Thankyou is founders don't get equity. We don't get shares. We have no shareholders and we have no investors. So we have a business that runs and it's owned 100% by our charitable trust. That's what makes us all for our mission. And it means that collectively, the more consumers that get on board, the more product we sell, the more money we make, the bigger impact. And that's the model. And we've seen it play out in, markets like Australia and New Zealand, which are very small. And it has taken a long time to refine the model, but it's working. And now we're envisioning, let's just get a few more million, maybe even one day billion consumers on board.
First of all, congratulations on a new member joining your family soon. Now, consumer behavior is quite an interesting dynamic. We know it takes a lot for consumers to change their spending habits. Are you saying, or maybe I should ask the question, has coronavirus done enough to disrupt traditional consumer behavior? Has enough disruption happened?
I mean, it is the great disruptor of our generation because we've had a health crisis. Now most countries, if not all countries, are facing an economic crisis. And off the back of those two things is going to be probably one of the biggest humanitarian crises the world's faced. And that's still on its way. It's starting to bubble up. So I think everyone's going to feel it. Employment is down. The way the world was just isn't anymore. So I do think it will have people thinking different, but I do not live under a utopian rock where I just sort of hope that everyone just changes overnight. Your point is right. Consumer behavior change is incredibly difficult. We have the number one selling hand wash in Australian supermarkets. That is not because of the cause, and all of our data tells us that. In fact, we did a study of people who purchased Thankyou product, and at first I was a bit discouraged because it said 60% of people who purchased Thankyou did not know about the cause. Now, at first we were kind of perplexed because for us this is all about a mission. But at Thankyou we have two rules. You'll see it on our website when it comes to making product. Rule 1 is make great product. Rule 2, never break rule 1. There's an asterisk on rule 2 and it says never use a good cause to sell an average product. And at its core, Thankyou is all about the consumer.
Daniel, in Australia, you guys have done incredibly well. You've managed to raise more than $17 million and you've impacted so many people across so many countries. How do you transfer that impact to a country like South Africa, where there's a very strong sense of giving? We've seen tremendous effort by so many people. In actual fact, we have a term for it here. It's called the spirit of Ubuntu. So how do you transfer that to South Africa?
Yeah. Look, I love that giving is part of your culture, and it is a key part of Australian and New Zealand culture too. And I think our goal is to not touch the giving component, but really to stretch it further into the consumer space. Because I tell you, every single person that contributed to giving in South Africa, my guess is they also purchase hand wash, yes, some hand sanitizer, some body wash. And so our goal is to continue to stretch that heart of generosity, but now right deep into that weekly family, grocery shop. And this is how we create change. So our goal is to get product into mainstream retail, available to consumers, and then how we help end extreme poverty, which is a huge claim. Well, Thankyou knows we do not have the answers, but our partners do. We are currently funding 16 partners across Sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. Many of these are community-led programs, and we are backing them. They are the change makers. To be honest, they've got the hardest job there is in this whole process, which is implementing from water, food, health, sanitation, livelihood programs. Even one of the groups we're working with in South across Africa is called Strong Minds, that focus on the mental health space, which is a huge contributor for people staying stuck in poverty. And it grips the whole continent, if not the world. So we're looking to fund partners that really understand the complexity of poverty and are looking to change that. We're looking at those who are focused on impact, not just activity. And we're looking for partners that have an end game. And each of our 16 partners they're thinking about, life beyond them as an organization working with communities. And then we've backed them in a pretty revolutionary way, which is called unrestricted funding. And maybe we can unpack that later. But the point is, this is a partnership model. We can't do it alone. It's a partnership between the consumer, the retailers, the manufacturers, and those implementing impact. And Thankyou is almost like I suppose we're a curator of those partnerships, and we're looking to take this to scale quickly.
You mentioned unrestricted funding. What does that mean?
Look, one of the great challenges, and we tackle this deep in our website over like a 20-page letter, but one of the issues in the last mile, and serving those living in extreme poverty and those still there today. It's complex work. And often what donors don't realize is that we give money with too many strings attached. We've done this at Thankyou over the years. In our first decade, this is what we did. But there is a great donor dysfunction, and a great study came out reporting that, to my shock, absolute shock, 64% of issues that charities and NGO faces are donor-led challenges. So not corruption, which you'd think that would be huge. Actually, that was only a couple of percent. 64% come from donor requests. And the simplest analogy I've got is that the way the development sector is working is similar to, if I had money and I wanted heart surgery and I gave a heart surgeon the money, imagine if I then told the heart surgeon how I wanted that money spent and how I wanted that heart surgeon to direct the surgery. It's crazy, but that's happening every single day between donors and charities. And unrestricted funding is really, at a deeper level, trust-based philanthropy.
Final question from me, Daniel. In many ways, and many could argue that you're actually advocating for us to go back to basics, to the basic principles of giving, to make sure that it becomes uncomplicated.
Okay, well, look, we've just launched our boldest campaign yet. It's a call out to the world. And there's a video online on Thankyou Oz, Instagram and Facebook.
Nice.
Have a look at it, share it. You guys might have the link as well, but we're calling out to the world to say, help take #Thankyou to the world. And we've done a really bold move. We've in fact invited P&G and Unilever, two of the biggest product companies on the planet. And we've publicly invited them to make and distribute Thankyou products in over 190 countries. This is a really a kind of a post-COVID flip business as usual. Let's stop competing. Let's partner for the end of extreme poverty. And right now, this public petition, we're asking people across South Africa to post their support. I'm in, are you? #Thankyou to the world, tag P&G and Unilever, because we need the consumer voice to raise the awareness to these big multi-billion-dollar companies to say, hey, if you helped make and distribute Thankyou products, that wouldn't be 17 million. Together, that could be hundreds of millions of dollars. And this could represent a new business normal. And, it's a bold move, but it's happening right now online. There's a heap more details on it. We've opened up to 9 other global manufacturers in the industry as well. But we just invite people to check out the campaign, post their support, share the video, and one day soon get product into South Africa.
Daniel, thank you very much for your time. And we're going to urge our viewers to log onto your platform called Thankyou to go and find out more about this campaign, to lend their pens to your campaign, and let's hopefully influence some of the biggest distributors in the world to carry the brand and help impact more of these causes.
For more stories like these, go to www.social-tv.co.za, subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on our social mediums.